Greetings everybody, and welcome to the Fountain Wind Vendor Fair. If we haven't already met, my name is Henry Waltag, and I am the project manager for the Fountain Wind project. And I will also be your MC for today's event. Now, first off, we'd like to thank you all for participating and joining us here virtually. We really think this project is a way to jumpstart, if you will, the economic recovery in Shasta County, and we are excited to talk to you guys about those opportunities. Now, when we first sent out the invite for today's event, we were really hoping that we could be sitting there in Shasta County in person with you guys, but things happen, and here we are virtually. So, we view this as really part one in a series of conversations. And part 2, 3, 4 will hopefully be there in person with you guys. Now, the goal of the event today is to let you guys know about the exciting economic opportunities that will be associated with constructing the project. And these are opportunities for you all as well as the broader Shasta County community. And we will also like to ask for a little bit of help in the upcoming public approval process, but we'll get to that later. Now for a little bit of housekeeping. We would like for you all to answer 2 poll questions we have for you right off the bat. To find those poll questions, all you have to do is click on the poll icon in the bottom right-hand portion of your screen. This will also be the location that we ask for you to submit questions throughout the presentation. Once we have all of the poll results handy, we will read those off for you. And we will also do our best to answer all of your questions that are submitted throughout the presentation at the tail end of our material. Now, I'm going to stop talking for a little bit, but we've got a bit of information to share with you. We're going to start off with a video on the Fountain Wind project, followed by a message from ConnectGen CEO. And following that, we will have a presentation by one of the premier construction firms in the wind energy industry, and we'll top it all off with a bit of an update on where the project stands now and our question and answer session. So without further ado, we'll get started with a video on the Fountain Wind project.
Today, we have an opportunity to bring wind energy and all the benefits that come with it to Shasta County. Wind energy is a clean, low-cost energy source available right here in Shasta County. A wind farm in Shasta County will help California meet its 100% renewable energy goal by 2050. Wind energy is one of the cheapest ways to produce electricity, drastically less expensive than nuclear and even less than natural gas, without the environmental impacts. Similar to other commodities, wind energy can be harvested here in Shasta County and then delivered to customers via existing transmission lines that have sufficient capacity. That's just part of the reason why ConnectGen is developing the Fountain Wind Energy Project. ConnectGen is an independent renewable energy developer with strong financial backing, with approximately 5.7 gigawatts of renewable energy developed in the United States. Fountain Wind is part of their goal to increase America's supply of low-cost clean energy. Fountain Wind is located in the center of Shasta County, just west of Boerne along the 299 highway. Let's take a closer look at the project area. The project area provides direct access to an existing 230 kilovolt transmission line. The existing Hatchet Ridge project is located to the northeast of the proposed project site. The leasehold area is highlighted with a dotted yellow line, where up to 72 turbines will generate an estimated 216 megawatts of electricity, enough to power 86,000 homes. Depending on the final turbine type selected, up to 72 turbine sites could be needed. New all-weather roads will provide access to turbines for installation and servicing. Based on feedback from the public scoping process, we have carefully sited the turbines within the lease area in the effort to minimize impacts to the natural, cultural, and human environments. Fortunately, the existing transmission line has more than enough capacity to handle the additional power. In talking with people in the area and listening to their concerns, we know that fire prevention is a major concern. Our plan will exist for the life of the project and provide emergency response, evacuation, fire agency notification, and fire prevention. The new access roads will support improved fire prevention and protection. Additionally, the landowner has installed a series of dip pits on site so that helicopters fighting fires will have on-site access to water. When designing the project, we had to think about more than just the wind resource and visibility of turbines. Impacts to traffic are minimized with coordinated construction activity, and the project will generate tax revenue to improve local roads. The project will implement best management practices throughout construction and operation to avoid and minimize impacts to surface water and groundwater. Turbines and access roads are sited to minimize the need for significant grading and preserve natural land contours. Ground disturbing activities will be limited to only that which is needed to safely construct and operate the project. All disturbed areas will be reclaimed to pre-construction conditions as practicable. Fountain Wind will meet the strict Shasta County sound standards. Noise reduction measures will further minimize disruption and annoyance during construction. At the end of the project's life, roughly 30 years, Financial Securities will guarantee responsible decommissioning and restoration. Let's look at some benefits to Shasta County and its residents. Over the life of the project, Fountain Wind will pay $50 million in tax revenue to Shasta County. Fountain Wind will also pay $3.5 million in sales tax to the local community. At its peak, Fountain Wind will create more than 200 construction jobs. We plan to donate $1 million to benefit not only Shasta County, but the Intermountain communities of Round Mountain and Montgomery Creek. During the 30 years of full-time operations, we will have up to 12 full-time employees working in the community. Fountain Wind, harvesting the wind to power an economic boon for Shasta County.
All right, hello again, everyone. Now we will get to some of our poll results. For our first question, it looks like 30% of you have had experience in a local wind farm, whereas 70% haven't. Now, we will look to change that and up that percentage quite a bit. And for the second question, 50% of you think there will be double-digit participation in the event, while as the other 50% think dozens and dozens will participate. And of course, the latter one is our goal. We look to involve as many local suppliers as we can. So I would like to add that same little box that you clicked on to answer the poll questions. We would ask you to click on that same box, because that will be the portal to ask questions as we go on here through our program. And we will be answering those questions at the end of the program, along with making an exciting announcement. So now I will kick it over to Caton Fens, our CEO, for a brief message.
Thank you, Henry. And hello, and welcome to the ConnectGen Vendor Fair for the Fountain Wind Project. I appreciate you taking time today to join us for this event. At ConnectGen, we believe strongly that we're building more than just projects. We're building relationships with the communities in which we operate. A key part of that is engaging local vendors like you to provide high quality goods, services, and materials to our projects, whether it's in the development, construction, or operations phase. We look forward to engaging with you and as we move this project to fruition. Thank you again for attending. Stay safe, and back to you, Henry.
All right, thank you for that, Caton. Well, I can say we are definitely going to be employing our development philosophy and those values when we continue our community outreach for the Fountain Wind Project. And with that, I will kick it over to Thomas O'Connor, Tom for short, with Mortensen Construction to talk a little bit about what it actually takes to construct a wind farm. Tom?
Thank you, Henry. My name is Tom O'Connor with Mortensen Construction, and I, along with John May, will be talking about the construction aspect of the project. Mortensen Construction is based out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. They've been in business for 66 years, family owned, 3 generations. We have 12 regional offices, over 7,000 employees, and we've been in the wind industry for 25 years and have completed over 240 wind projects. So now I'd like to transition into a construction overview on how a wind farm is built. The first thing we'll do is we'll build a laydown yard. Typically it's between 8 and 12 acres and has to accommodate up to 350 people. In this facility, we'll have our office complexes, fuel filling stations, storage, parking, so on and so forth. And then once that's built, we'll go into building the access roads for the wind farm. The access roads we built from locally sourced aggregate, and we typically try to follow the existing terrain to minimize disturbance and also the most cost-effective approach. While we're doing that, we will start the underground collection system, and that connects the power from turbine to turbine, and that goes back to the substation. We'll also be building the substation at this point, and then from there, we'll be installing a transmission line, and the power goes from the substation over the transmission line into the interconnect facility, which will then go over the grid and supply power to the communities. We'll also be completing the turbine foundations, and the turbine foundations and the technology of the turbines, as they've been getting larger every year. So the concrete quantities for turbines can range from 400 cubic yards to 800 cubic yards, and the reinforcing steel could range from 35 tons to 50 tons. We'll also be building the O&M facility, and that's where people will be working out of for the next 20 years as they operate the facility. So from here, we want to talk about our primary regional suppliers. They include civil equipment. That includes dozers, backhoes, motor graders, cranes, so on and so forth. And also we have suppliers for the electrical system, the collection material, the underground collection cable, the materials for the substation, and the materials for the transmission line. We also require an EMT at Mortensen on the job site. And then we also have reinforcing steel and rebar installed for the turbine foundations. And we also will employ a local ready-mix supplier for the turbine foundations, the substation, and the O&M building. Then, of course, we will be building the O&M facility with a regional supplier. And then we also have anchor bolts, embed supplies, and concrete pumping for the turbine foundations. We also, of course, have the erection equipment. Well, these are very large lattice boom cranes. And we also, in conjunction with the main erection cranes, we have rough terrain cranes, forklifts, and so on. So now we want to transition into the local supplier opportunities. And this is where, if you imagine how big of a project this is, the project is going to require a tremendous amount of men, materials, and equipment to get this project built. So they include portable toilets, dumpsters, electrical supply houses, lumber yards, telephone service, computer service, electrical service, hotels, motels, cleaning services, and campgrounds, RV parks for the people to live while they're doing the project. So the list gets quite extensive. There's a tremendous amount of opportunities for local suppliers to participate in the project. And John May will be happy to answer any questions you may have during the Q&A session later on.
Thank you for that, Tom. I can say that having seen the construction of a wind farm firsthand, and even working with Mortensen on one of those projects, Mortensen truly is the conductor of the orchestra, and we rely on you all, everyone who's involved in the construction efforts, to work closely together with Mortensen, because everything is a tightly coordinated series of events. And it really takes a village for one of these projects to go from inception through to construction. And with that, we'll go to our Vice President of Development here at ConnectGen, Mark Lawler, for an update on where the project is and where we expect to be going in the coming months. Mark?
Yeah, thanks, Henry. As Henry mentioned, I'm the Vice President of Development for ConnectGen, and I'm going to take a few minutes to talk to you about the development stages of the project and where we are. It's also a pleasure to see a few folks that I know. I've managed to spend some time up in Redding and Shasta County myself, taking in some of your fine dining and drinking establishments with the limited time that I have up there as well. So good to be with you all. So over the past several years, Fountain Wind has undergone a rigorous environmental and technical study process to support the responsible siting and design of the project that you heard our friends from Mortensen highlighting earlier. Additionally, Shasta County is developing a comprehensive environmental impact report pursuant to California Environmental Quality Act, which is expected to hit the public streets any day now. Those who are familiar with this DEIR process know that it will thoroughly review all the potential impacts of the project and identify mitigating measures that will avoid or significantly minimize any adverse impacts. So we encourage you to take a look at the DEIR and consider following Shasta County in its decision to permit the project. It's a very transparent process and one that's designed to make sure that even if you don't believe Caton earlier when he told you how committed ConnectGen is to responsible development, that it's focused on community engagement and wanting to form a lasting relationship and partnership with those whom we conduct business with, the DEIR will guarantee the community's environmental concerns will be protected. As a company's core value is developing clean energy resources, we of course care deeply about environmental concerns. The DEIR is an important milestone for the project and will start the clock running on the public approval process, which will involve County Planning Board, as well as the Board of Supervisors. And this is where we need your help. We would greatly appreciate it if those of you who are participating in this vendor fair, along with your organization and fellow colleagues, would become active supporters of the project. It's very important that we show the community support to your elected leaders. All you have to do is visit our website, fountainwind.com, and click on the support button in the upper right-hand corner. From there, you can sign a petition in favor of the project, and if you so choose, and hopefully you will, you can generate a personalized letter of support. So as far as schedule goes, if this project receives approval from the Board of Supervisors in a timely fashion, we would anticipate starting construction a little more than a year from that point. As you know, with a project this size and scope, that means a significant amount of planning and starting the ball rolling on spending those economic development dollars next year. So with that, I'll throw it back to Henry for the question and answer session.
Thanks, Mark. As a bit of an update, we anticipate the draft EIR being released any day now, and we would really appreciate y'all's support as we move forward with the approval process. Now, if you wouldn't mind taking 2 minutes at the close of our program to go to our website and sign up to the support of the project, that would be fantastic. And now, Mark Lawler, John May from Mortensen Construction, and myself will be answering the questions that you all have asked over the last 20 minutes or so. I'd like to remind you to click the little chat bubble at the bottom of your screen to ask questions. We are really here to provide information to you all. But before we take the first question, I would like to announce that we will be making a $2,000 donation to the Shasta Regional Community Foundation on behalf of you all who are participating in today's event. Those funds will go towards support for Shasta County residents who are currently experiencing food insecurity. So again, thank you all for participating today. Now for the first question, and we wanted to answer a question you were even asking us before the vendor fair started, and that is, will you sign a project labor agreement for Fountain Wind? And if so, will that PLA keep most of us from being able to participate? And for that answer, we'll go to Mark Lawler.
Yeah, thanks, Henry. So we are negotiating a project labor agreement for this project, as is typical with projects of this nature and this scale. However, regardless of that outcome, there will be multiple opportunities for businesses and folks within Shasta County and Northern California to participate in the project. So it will still absolutely create opportunities for non-union organizations. More will be, you'll see more of that once we sign up our general contractor for the project and start issuing some of those opportunities. So yes, we look forward to working with many folks throughout the region.
All right, thanks, Mark. The next question we have is for John May with Mortensen. And I guess, John, feel free to do a brief introduction for yourself and let us know where you are right now. But what scopes, if any, will Mortensen be self-performing?
Yeah, thanks, Henry. And as Henry mentioned, I'm John May with Mortensen Construction. I'm a project executive. I've been with Mortensen for 16 years now. So sometime been in the wind space since 2007. Unfortunately, I have not done a project in California yet. So I've been kind of all over the country, but California is one of the states I have not yet done a project in. So looking forward to that. And right now, I'm currently actually on a wind project that we're constructing in Missouri. So, yep, I'm here. So to answer the question, most certainly we'll be self-performing the turbine foundation work and the turbine installation work. Those will most definitely be self-performing. A lot of the other scopes, it'll really depend. We like to get competitive input from the market on almost all other scopes. There's some that we just flat out do not self-perform, but when it comes to the road work or the electrical work, we'll be soliciting pricing from the market, and more than likely those will be subs to Mortensen. So we do have the ability to self-perform, but those scopes are certainly will go out to bid. So I think that answers the question. Back to you, Henry.
All right. Thanks, John. I might kick it right back to you because we got a related question while you were talking. Do we need to sign up and be pre-qualified to bid on specific work?
Yes and no. I mean, it depends on the scope. The larger scopes, most certainly, we would want to, have those individuals or those organizations pre-qualified to bid on the work. Some of the smaller stuff, definitely not. So yeah, I mean, it all depends basically on the scope of work we're talking about.
Okay. So the next question, I'm gonna send that over to you, Mark. Since Mortensen is from out of the area, can you explain your commitment to putting local workers to work on this project?
Yeah, that's pretty typical for projects of this nature. Mortensen might have some of their, as John just explained, a number of self-performing activities, but a lot of them are going to be sourced locally. Recent experience, with the Hatchet Wind project is perhaps a good example to look forward to that. So yeah, it's typically more cost effective to source those things locally. So yeah, there'll be plenty of opportunity for individuals in the area.
All right, and we have a question here on project schedule and project duration. Now, Mark mentioned the project would kick off a little more than a year from Board of Supervisors approval. In the year between approval and potential construction activities, we would be ramping up our engineering and design of the project to go from the current level, which we would call about 50% design, to quote unquote issued for construction. And we would use those engineering designs to, in coordination with the likes of Mortensen to do our RFP bid process, which would happen, within, or be started within 6 to 9 months from the Board of Supervisors approval. So targeting around mid-summer, mid-2021. And from there, in the fall of 2021, we would plan on tree clearing activities to support a spring of 2022 start of construction. Now, we do think this would be a 2-season build, given the weather up in the hills in the Intermountain region. The first year in 2022, we would do civil work, a lot of the underground electrical cable installation, the foundations for the turbines in the substation, et cetera. And then in 2023, after we break for winter, we would come back with final substation completion and come back with the turbines and start erecting and commissioning those to facilitate a 2023, towards the fall, completion of construction. All right, the next question we have is with relation to fire safety, and it's one we've been getting lately, and understandably, as we're into the forest fire danger season. The question is, since you're ultimately going onto PG&E's system, and we know all about their troubles, will you simply be adding to their problems? Mark, why don't you take a stab at answering that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, the really compelling thing about this project is how it actually can enhance fire safety for the property it's on and the entire region. And there's a number of reasons for that. First of all, as you install access roads, you create natural fire breaks. And this is basically, something that's been explained to us by the landowner who, this is an actively timber managed area. So, they know from experience the value of having those breaks. These roads also provide access. One of the larger challenges for dealing with fires is getting access to these hotspots, and you can do so more easily in this case. This particular landowner is also going and taking on additional measures for this property, given the risks that have been presented just across the state for fires, by installing dip tanks on property that allow for quick access to air support, suppression. So you combine all these things together, and you actually enhance the safety for fire in this particular region.
Yeah, and to add on top of that, Mark, we would be employing a new technology that is up tower in the turbine. It's a fire suppression system. If any of the sensors in the tower trip, it releases essentially a blast of air, or NO2, for 10 seconds, snuffs out all of the available oxygen, which of course is one of the fuels for fire in the nacelle up tower. So we are going to be using state-of-the-art technology within the turbines themselves to help prevent the turbines from being the cause of an accident. Another question here And this one I'll send over to John, and then I will piggyback on that. But does Mortensen have in-house design engineers, or will they outsource for design engineer work?
Yeah, and I guess similar to the question on what scopes will self-perform, it's kind of a combination of both. Typically, from a civil and structural standpoint, the civil design and the foundation design, that will most certainly be outsourced. We do have in-house electrical design capabilities. But similar to, like I said, similar to the question about other scopes that we self-perform, we will solicit pricing from the market and then kind of choose the most competitive option there. So on the electrical side of things, it could go either way. On the civil and structural side, it will most certainly be outsourced. So back to you, Henry.
All right, thanks, John. And yes, to piggyback on that, the early stage design that we work on to, really kind of hone in on the permitting process and where to focus our efforts. That is something that ConnectGen handles, and we advance the design to a certain stage and then hand it over to our construction partners to really take it the rest of the way there, so to speak. So the next question here is, who is the property owner? And I can answer that one. So this property is the project is sited entirely on private timber property. It used to be Roseburg Resources. About 3 or 4 years ago, Roseburg sold their land holdings to an entity called Shasta Cascade Timberlands. Now, the management of the property has stayed the same. It's still Landvest, who have offices in Reading, in Weed, and up in Humboldt, but different owner. And we've been working with them over the last 2 years and really, communicating with them because they are new landowners. We've been communicating some of the things we've been hearing from the community. When we started permitting the project, we started hosting project office hours right there in Round Mountain for members of the community just to drop in. And one of the things we heard was, this property, we used to hunt it with, our families growing up, and we used to take our grandkids hunting, and then all of a sudden the property was posted. Now that is becoming more and more common in the timber management industry just to mitigate fire risk. And, hearing that from the community, we have leveraged our relationship with the landowner, Shasta Cascade Timberlands, and, communicated that message. And so they are open to working on some sort of system to allow for the neighbors of the project to get access back to the property for on-foot hunting. So that is something that they're very open to. And with the project, we would have a full-time operations and maintenance building that is sited right there on the property. And we would have people who could manage the access to the property. So we are excited to be able to kind of bring that benefit back to the local community. All right, the next question is for Mortensen. Who all do you typically use for civil designers, and how do you get on the potential bidding list?
Yeah, so I guess first question there, as Henry had mentioned many times in many cases, the developer will initiate the design, and that is turned over when we get involved to us to take it to issued for construction. At that point in time, we'll evaluate, does it make sense for us to continue along with that engineer that took that design to 30 or 50% level, or do we go a different route? We are very familiar with Westwood Professional Services. We use them quite a bit for our civil design. So, that would probably be an obvious choice if a switch was the right way to go. And then how do you get on the bidders list? I'm not sure how exactly, the attendance is being taken or anything, but Henry, if you want to forward me the information of those that are interested, I can certainly pass that along to our pre-construction group. We're quite a bit a ways out from, letting bids out onto the street, but we can certainly start compiling that list for this area. We do have a pretty good database of vendors and subcontractors, trade partners across the country. So, there's a good chance those of you that are asking that question might already be in our system and would be tapped to participate in an RFP process already. But it doesn't help to get that information over to me, and I can pass it along to our pre-construction folks.
Yeah, and that's something that we, I myself as a project manager keep a running list of, because being there, being in the community, meeting folks when I'm able to travel out there, invariably I do talk to people who ask, how can we eventually participate in the project? Or just last week, I got an email from a turbine technician who has family in Reading, but is now working on a site in Wisconsin. And he says, hey, when are you guys going to construct the project, and how do I, potentially interview to kind of come back and be closer to family? And so that's something that I keep a running list of, and trust me, once we get to the bid process, all of those that are, participating in this event or who follow up with me in the future will be on the list. We have your emails, and that'll be, a resource that we provide our construction partner to reach out to. All right, this next question, what makes the area so well suited for wind development? And will there be opportunities for additional development projects in the future? So that's a good answer, or that's a good question, I should say. California is a very big state, but it surprisingly does not have as much readily available wind resource as the Great Plains, the center of the United States, which is really, what folks call the wind corridor. Your Kansas, Iowa, Panhandle of Texas, those types of places. So what makes this site so well suited for wind development is that it's actually a really good wind resource for California standards. Hence why the Hatchet Ridge project was first sited there 10 years ago. It also isn't how hard the wind blows as much as it is when the wind blows. Because right now in California, you're seeing so much solar energy come on the system that it's causing a problem. At the end of the day, when the sun's setting and the solar energy production goes down, other resources have to ramp up pretty quickly to meet demand when people get home from work and flip the lights on, flip the AC on. So the wind resource here at the Fountain site blows the hardest in the evening hours from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. when there isn't any solar on the system. And it also blows the hardest, in the winter months where the output from the dams are at their lowest. So those combination of factors that resulted from years and years in study of the wind resource out there have made this site, a very good one for California. Also, this site in particular is sited right on an existing transmission line. We do not have to build any new overhead transmission, high voltage transmission to interconnect the project. There have been multiple years of interconnection electrical studies performed on the project to see if the amount of energy, the 200 plus megawatts, can be safely incorporated to the grid. And of course, the answer to that is yes. We are interconnecting on the pit number 1 to Cottonwood transmission line. And even though there is a large substation there in Round Mountain, the 500 kV substation, we are actually interconnecting on a line that feeds directly into Cottonwood. So it's really the combination of the wind resource and the proximity to the existing transmission grid that makes this a great development site. And the question, will there be future projects in Shasta County? That's a good question. You know, you never know as technology improves. That could very well be possible. I personally do not know of any planned, but I wouldn't be surprised if eventually some come out of the woodwork, so to speak. So with that, I think that is the last of the questions I have. Let me check the list here really quick. Yeah, so I think we've answered all your questions, but by any means, my virtual door is always open. I'd be happy to visit with any of you, either here a Zoom meeting or over the phone. By all means, feel free to contact me to set up a meeting. And in parting, we greatly appreciate everybody's participation in today's event. We look forward to working with you to see the project and associated benefits help revitalize the economy in Shasta County. We'll post a recording of this event on our website. So if you know of someone who couldn't join us today, please direct them to our website and they can catch up that way. And then, you know, they can hopefully click to support the project. And like I said, if you'd like to follow up with me or Mark or even John, you know, we'd be happy to do so. And with that, I will let you all get back to your afternoons, and thanks again, and stay safe, everybody.